Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and we're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. As I said, just before we went on that quick break, we'll be taking a look at customs destination inspection regime, and recently organized private sector actually came up with a report about the PAR, and that's what we're going to be looking at on the program today. The PAR is supposed to be the pre-arrival assessment report, and I'm being joined on the program by the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Muda Yusuf. Mr. Yusuf, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
So what really is the issue with this pre-arrival assessment report? Why does organized private sector have an issue with it?
Well, the issue has to do with the delays and the implications of the delays for the cost of doing business. As a concept, the PAR is good, which is the pre-arrival assessment report. It's good in the sense that first, it helps to save revenue for government, because now we have the Nigerian Customs Service delivering the service.
Yes.
And that is also in line with what happens globally. It is Nigerian Customs Service that normally handles sorting. So to that extent, it's a very good development. We also commend the initiative because it also helps to build capacity within the Customs Service. You know, it also should enhance customs revenue. But what we have observed is that there have been some serious transitional issues. Normally, if you are transiting from one regime to the other, you should expect some challenges. You know, this PAR came into effect in December.
Yes, last year.
So this is the 4th month. But somehow, the challenges have persisted. And because of the costs and the burden these challenges are imposing on businesses, we feel that it is necessary to draw the attention of the appropriate authorities to it, so that something can be done very urgently about it. Now,
from all indications, the LCCI believes that the Customs Service doesn't have the capacity to deal with the destination inspection scheme. Would you have preferred that it remained with the contractors, or is it any better now? Or was it any better then than it is what we have now?
Not quite. It's not a question of saying that the Customs doesn't have the capacity. We believe that because it's a transitional phase, there will be challenges. But the Customs needs to mitigate these problems. Before now, at least until about 2 weeks ago or thereabouts, there was what they call the pre-assessment release. You know, while all these problems have been sorted out, there was a system put in place to release the cargo based on the invoice.
Okay.
And if there are issues thereafter, there will be appropriate payment to be made through the issuance of debit notes. But what has happened now is that the pre-release has been stopped. Meanwhile, the main system itself has not significantly improved. So that is creating a lot of problems.
So is it that the customs were not prepared for this taking over of this responsibility?
Well, they were prepared, because I followed the debate as to whether I should go to the customs, whether I should remain with the destination inspection agents. And from all indications at that time, there was assurance that the customs was ready for it. Again, just as I said, these are transitional issues. But the customs needs to realize the implications of these transitional problems. You know, in instances of this nature, it's better to look at the cup as half full as against being half empty. I believe the Nigeria Customs Service should be given a chance to provide this service. But while it is sorting itself out, there is need to mitigate the pains that this is imposing on businesses. Because, I mean, it's not, doing business in this environment is not the easiest of things. And when you look at our global competitiveness report ranking, if you look at the World Bank doing business ranking, we are not doing very well at all. In the doing business ranking of the World Bank, our ranking is about 147.
Okay, is that a recent figure?
Yes, 2014, 147. Out of about 189 countries profiled. You know, so in other parameters like some of these economic fundamentals, GDP and so on, our performance may be okay. But in terms of the investment climate issues, we still have a long way to go.
And one of the reasons why we're having this issue is because of delays of clearing
yes,
cargoes
yes.
from the port.
The cargo issue is, the port issue is a major problem. You know, it's not just a customs issue. You know, we have other players in the port system.
Okay,
you have the terminal operators, you have, all these people. But with regard to the customs, because you need this power to process other documents. Without it, you can't move forward.
Now, there was this former arrangement, the risk assessment report.
Yes.
Is it the pre-arrival assessment report? Is it any better now than the risk assessment report? Are there any major advantages of this new system over the former one?
Well, there ought to be advantages, because the pre-arrival assessment report presupposes that even before the arrival of the cargo, the documents will have been perfected, so that as soon as the cargo is arriving, it is easier to clear the cargo. So that means with the PAR, it should be easier to clear within a shorter time. Whereas with the RA, which is the risk assessment report, you begin to process documents when the cargo has arrived. So normally, we should expect that the PAR should be faster than the RA.
Okay, but
then secondly, the PAR is being issued by the Nigeria Customs Service. So the risk or the chances of queries by the customs, because one of the challenges that importers also have is that if your cargo lands and you already got the RA from the destination inspection agents, most of the time there are issues of queries on valuation, that this cargo has been undervalued. And this issue is a major problem that importers face. But now that the author of PAR is the customs, we don't expect customs to be querying itself. So this again should be an advantage of PAR over RA. But we need to perfect the system. We need to make it more seamless and reduce some of these constraints.
And in terms of reducing these constraints now, should another agency, for instance, be working with the customs to ensure that these constraints are reduced?
Well, I think what is important is for customs to also examine its own processes.
But I mean, if they came up with a process, then is there is there really any need for them to examine the process? It's almost like going round and round one issue that they ought to understand anyway.
Yes, if you are running a system and your stakeholders are complaining about the system, if you want to be sincere enough about it, you should go back and look at your processes. In looking at the processes, you should be able to identify some of the gaps and see how you can muster the capacity to fix this. There's nothing that stops the customs from, collaborating with some IT agencies or getting professionals even outside the customs service. We have very competent IT professionals within the country who can be brought on board to support the customs. We have IT companies, because these things are basically IT solutions. And we have sufficient manpower and resources within this economy that can support the customs to deliver this service. So I think that is the way to go. I mean, you look at the gaps and see what kind of resources you need to bring on board to make sure that you minimize these constraints on the issuance of power.
Is it just IT related? Because I know that for organized private sector, it's made up of every arm, every facet of the economy, every sector. So if you're talking about ICT, how about collaborations from other like the manufacturers and the rest of it? I'm sure they'll also have some form of input as to how these things can quickly be addressed and how the customs can move forward with it.
No, you see, the processing of the documents is basically an IT thing. That you have some information that you feed into the system, you generate the necessary information, you send it to the appropriate agencies for processing. It's a processing issue. It's a process issue. And the process is IT driven. So you need competencies in terms of manpower, you need competencies in terms of the infrastructure, IT infrastructure. And these things, I don't think they are rocket science.
Oh, well,
if some of these things are not, if these things are not resident within the customs, you can see collaboration, partnership with IT companies, partnership with IT professionals, and we have them in abundance in this economy anyway.
Oh, well, we'll get to see if we can get responses to, this issues that you've actually raised, because we're hoping to join the Nigeria Customs Service Public Relations Officer Wale Adeni for him to also be part of this conversation, and we get his thoughts on it. So we'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, this conversation continues.